Oops.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today, taking a look at another optic from BLACKHOUND Optics. This one is the 3-24 Emerge. This one's mil. It's a first focal plane optic, and I think I'll just jump in by telling you about some of the features, how they work, how they worked for me, and how I think they'll work for you. So this right here, the first thing I'm going to grab is the reticle focus. This is important because you need your reticle to be nice and tight and clear. So look at a blue sky, a blank wall, take a peek at the reticle and move this back and forth until the reticle is nice and clear. This one has a huge range of travel. It moves freely, and even in cold weather, I believe it'll still operate well. And it has a nice texture. Everything on here, dials, turrets, and every lever on here has a nice texture to it. Going to the magnification arm here and the assist, there's an assist on this one, which can be removed if you have to. If it runs into your bolt knob, you could remove it. It has that little cattail on there though, and it moves nice and smoothly. I think even in cold weather, I'm not going to have any issues with that going back and forth, but it has a great texture to it. So I can grab onto it and flip between magnification real quick. I spend most of my time between 10 and 24 power, right in there somewhere, and I think it matches. A lot of times somewhere around 14 to 16 power is going to be the average, and that dial right there helps me just go back and forth. If I need to get a quick shot of the bigger field of view and then zoom right in, it's easy for me to do, and I like that it goes to the left. Heavier magnification is in pushing to the left. That's easy for me to do and grab onto. Next, onto the parallax knob. The parallax knob itself is also textured the same way the rest of the dials and turrets are. It's a really good texture. It's easy to grab onto. I think when I have gloves on as well, it's not going to slip. I'll be able to get a good grab for it. No numbers on there except for the initial and the last, so it goes down below 20 yards slightly up to infinity, and it just has kind of a fat bar that gets thinner as you go down lower, so just generally, but when you adjust parallax, it should be just by clarity of the image and lack of parallax. You should be bobbling your head back and forth. Kind of looks goofy, but you bob your head back and forth, and as you look at your image and the reticle on your image, the reticle should not be moving around, and that's how you check parallax. It's not just clarity, because you could perceive that improperly. It's actually the reticle not moving, so I don't mind that there's no numbers on there aside from the initial and the ladder infinity line. I think it works really well. Moves freely, again, nice and smooth, and it's got a good texture, good placement, good size as well. Moving on to the illumination. This illumination knob has 6 settings of brightness, all the way down to 1 for night vision probably, and then there's off in between. That's the right way to do an illumination knob. It clicks into place really nicely. I only use illumination in fairly low light settings or early morning, that kind of thing, and this is going to be bright enough for all those settings, and then 1 is going to be perfect probably for your night vision type operations. And there's also inside your kit, inside your box, there is a little tool that is for removing the cover of the illumination feature there, and so you can get your battery inside, and so it provides you everything inside that box, everything you need to get you going, mount it up, and run your optic. Speaking of everything you need being inside the package, these rings, these BLACKHOUND rings, come with the package. It's inside the box, and so mounting your optic, again guys, you have everything you need, including leveling kit, the tools, and the rings themselves to go ahead and throw on whatever rifle you're going to run it on. I've put this on an auto gun as well as a bolt gun, and it fits well, mounts up perfectly. They're maybe just a little higher than extreme low setup, but the advantage of that is when my barrel heats up, I don't have so much mirage transferring or heat transferring to create mirage in front of my scope, and so there's an advantage there of keeping it just a little off the barrel. There's a little shot of that side turret again. This is 1/10 mil corrections. You can see on the 5th 10th line, there's a little bit of a rise. So on 5/10 you can tell you're on that 5/10 of a mil, and it just stands out a little bit. It's nice to have something like that in the turrets themselves, and as you can hear, they sound great. Very nice and crunchy turrets. Happy with that. Tactile, and that actually goes below by 2/10. You can set it up so you can go below your 0 by 2/10 in case temperature differences. Maybe it's a little hot and you just need to modify that a little bit. The windage sounds the exact same, by the way, as the elevation turret. The turrets themselves have a great texture. They're not super tall, they're not going to obstruct your view, but they are nice and broad, easy to grab onto. Something I'm concerned about as I'm dialing around, especially in the wintertime. I have to wear gloves, and so when I wear gloves, some turrets are just too small and they're hard to feel through the gloves. I can both hear and feel these turrets, and I trust them. Honestly, they're some of the nicest turrets I've run. They feel extremely high quality, And I like the little green accent in there. I don't know if that's for everyone, but for me, I personally really like it. I think it's neat. They did a few things that really make this optic stand out, and the turrets themselves are fantastic. One thing you might want to know about: these turrets have a huge range of travel, lots of internal elevation, but they do max out at 19.4 or 19.5 mils of travel. So as you're dialing on those, whatever you set that zero at, you're going to have from that zero 19.4 mils of travel to work with. And here again is another feature. If you can see just about where my index finger is there is a second rotation or second revolution indicator. So as you get close to your second revolution, right about there, it pops up, and it's enough that you can feel it. So if you're in a dark setting and you couldn't tell, man, am I in my second revolution or not? You could feel it, and then as you dial back down to your zero, if you're in your first revolution, it sinks back down, and then so it's flush with the top of the cap, and you can no longer feel it. And so really well done. Haven't had any issues with that at all. Functions exactly how it's supposed to. I didn't show you in this video, but resetting your zero is very easy. Loosen up those Allens, slip it back to zero, and then go ahead and tighten your Allens again, and you're zeroed. It's so simple to slip the turrets on that one and set your zero stop. Very, very easy. Here's a cool feature. This comes with a really nice sunshade, and inside is that honeycomb design, which kind of kills the flash. So the signature, sunlight signature of your optic, it's not going to glare out at animals or two-footed targets, anything like that. Nobody's going to know you're there. Really cool that it comes with that. It's a very nice sunshade, along with the flip caps. The flip cap covers for your optic are very, very nice. They fit perfectly, absolutely perfectly. They're able to be removed, but they fit on really nice and tight. Seem like a good quality, not going to break on me in the winter. And I like the fact that the cover itself, or the sunshade rather, the sunshade itself is an appropriate length. It's not so ridiculously long that it's just kind of obnoxious on the overall package. And I found it to be about the right length to do the trick, to do the job. And then also, like I said, when I had some sunlight and a little bit of flash there, I didn't see any reflection coming out of that scope. So I think it really does truly do the job, and you can still see through that honeycomb. Believe it or not, if you've never used one before, it totally kills the signature, but you can see through it perfectly. Doesn't really diminish your image. Everything recording. Hey guys, so I have my Savage Model 10 in 308. I have an Arco 8 on there. I have a big Atlas bipod, that's the Super Cal. I have a D resonator on the end. I have a Yankee Hill machinery brake. I have a BLACKHOUND 3-24 first focal plane mil. This is from their Emerge series. This is premium Japanese glass. I'm going to be shooting some Federal 175 grain SMKs here at it's 1,027 yards. And I'm shooting with an SDC 50 head from Sunway Photo. And on top of that, that's on top of the Sunway Photo IB65. So this is a ridiculously strong ball head that is meant for heavy packages. This rifle, the way it's configured right now, is 19 pounds, something like that. It's actually not my heaviest rifle, but it's around 19 pounds. And I'm shooting off a Sunway Photo 3650. That's the tripod, carbon fiber tripod here. I have videos on most of the things I reviewed or just discussed right now. And you can go ahead and check those out. Maybe, I don't think I have one on the Mischief Machine bubble level, but it's a decent bubble level. Check them out. I'm gonna go ahead and throw some rounds down here. It's not too windy out. I would say it's between 5 and 10 miles an hour. For 308 at 1,027 yards, it's enough to play around with a little bit here. And for me, my skill is not super high on shooting standing positions. It's actually something I've been working up to. I've been doing a lot of sitting, and then a lot of a little bit higher, kind of like kneeling positions, field positions, and now I'm working up to standing. I don't have a lot of experience with that, but this BLACKHOUND optic is so clear, it's so good, and it's not too windy out, so I decided tonight's the night. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try and see if there's something I can learn about a standing position and shooting off a tripod. I'm sure I'm not showing you the perfect form and function, the way to do it exactly. I'm just trying to learn myself right now. Mostly, I'm looking through this. I wanna see what kind of clarity this has, which I already know it's fantastic. And I want to see what the capability is of the IB65 and the SDC 50 to hold this in place, because this does move around. Even with the brake on the end, it moves around a little bit. So I'll grab some ammo, grab some ears, take a few shots here, and we'll see if I can get some impacts. Well, that was an impact. I didn't hear it. Huh. It's a miss. Okay, so I'm definitely favoring the right side. I think that's a weakness on my part. It's probably just recoil control, and I'm going to send a couple more, a little bit of left-right wind to work with. There it is. Nice. A little discussion on the reticle. So it has 10 mils of holdover. It's not a dot style. It's more of a continued line style here. You can see, and there's 5/10 and then a full mil for the holdovers, and it just goes back and forth like that. There's enough information there in the Christmas tree to be usable and to get your wind holds if you're going to hold those 10 mils, or if you're just going to dial like I do most of the time. Very functional. If you're used to a dot style, it's kind of fun to go back to two intersecting lines like that. The lines themselves in the reticle are not too thick to get things done. I was able to hold on my 5-inch target at 1,000 yards. I could still see it at 1,000 yards and make my hits. And so that's the important thing, is can you make your hits? Can you still shoot tight groups? Yes, absolutely. I am used to some of the dot style reticles, including from BLACKHOUND, the 3-18 that I reviewed just recently. Go check that out if you haven't already. The 3-18 has a dot style reticle, but not everybody prefers that. And in fact, for the hunting application, I think I might prefer this one over the dot style reticle. Going back and forth in low light situations and then shooting far and shooting close, I realized there are some real advantages to a simple reticle like this, where you can do a lot. You can cover a lot of ground with this type of reticle. For target practice, 100% did not hold me back. The next advantage would be in hunting. It's easy to find, it's very quick. Sometimes the type of reticle that has a dot style reticle, or maybe they're a little busy, it's just harder. It's not as fast to get a hold of that image and the center of the reticle and then hold it on an animal or perhaps a target, something of that nature. And for me, I just found, I think I shoot this a little better, faster on targets. I can throw it out there real quick because everything intersects, and it's a very simple reticle. It's not busy, it's not complicated, and there are some advantages to that, and the half-mil breakups are just easy. When I sat down, my buddy who doesn't have a huge amount of experience doing this kind of thing, it was not hard at all to explain this, to give it to him, and he just started making repeat hits at 630 yards and then at 1,000 yards. Not difficult, guys. Great reticle. This wouldn't be much of an optics review if I didn't actually discuss the optical clarity. Optical clarity is the best of any optic that I currently own. It is Japanese glass. It is extremely clear, and more than just clear, I mean edge to edge clarity. When I was using holdovers, using 10 mils of holdover at the bottom of the reticle, magnifying the image, about as much as I could with those 10 mils, I was still seeing a great amount of clarity in the edges of the glass. The numbers didn't distort. I didn't get weird color variations. Sometimes that happens with chromatic aberration. You get some weird color differences, and then the bending, and sometimes the numbers themselves look goofy, and you can't trust the holdovers in certain types of glass where the glass itself is not ground properly. This is a very premium piece of glass. Extremely happy with it. Low light, good light, both those situations. I mean, I shot this pretty much in the dark a couple times too, and I just couldn't believe how incredibly clear it was. I'm very satisfied with the level of glass. And at the price point, I don't know if a lot of people know this, a lot of people would still be putting in Chinese glass at this price point. And in probably really good Chinese glass, something that is suitable, but this is kind of like next level stuff. If you've never gone between, a decent piece of glass and a high-end piece of glass, if you've never done that compared side by side, maybe you wouldn't catch it right away, but I'm telling you, after looking at optics for quite a while now, comparing them and just spending a lot of time looking through glass at 600 yards, 1,000 yards and beyond, I'm starting to really notice the things that help me identify the image and see the targets better. And in a hunting application especially, you might start to notice when things blend together or stick out because of good color pop. So again, I don't want to undersell this. The color is really, really true. And even at distance, I'm noticing like, man, it looks really good. And so the thing that they're getting right is that the colors or the light that's coming through that 56 millimeter objective, which is a nice big size, as it's coming through, it's being focused into a proper point. And you don't have colors that are getting delayed or, one going to the wrong place. And then you get a weird fringe. Sometimes people call chromatic aberration color fringe, I think. And then you get a strange outline on certain items you're looking at. Like if you look at a metal target, you might get a weird outline from time to time, looking at the edges of things, because you're just getting this change in wavelength of color, and it's not lining up properly. It's not being focused into one single point. And I think it's probably tricky for the people who are designing this, the scientists that work on these kinds of things, to get the light focused into one point, to get it timed properly, designed well, and so that it comes to your eye and you're getting the full bright image with the proper colors. It's just really quite a cool science, and they did a great job. Wow. If you were wondering how I got those clean images of the reticle earlier, it's a quick shout out to Scope Cam. Thanks for sending this out to the channel. It's one of the ways that I can record my shots and give you an idea of what the actual reticle looks like in the field, real world use, and some of the glass too, as good as my phone can record. All right, so a good question to ask is, who is this optic built for? Who would get the most out of this? It's a very good question to ask. And I'm going to say, I think it does bridge a couple gaps. First of all, because of the reticle and the lower profile design of the turrets and things like that. The fact that it does have illumination and it's sort of compact for the range, 3 to 24. Also considering the range, the way that the turrets are textured, the magnification arm is textured, along with that cattail, the magnification assist. I do feel like this does pretty well in hunting. I think the reticle itself especially lends to hunting. It's easy to put on things like a deer or small game even. It won't be that hard. It doesn't cover up a huge amount of it, but it's also easy to see. At 24 power, I've just been noticing it's really easy for me to see it, to pick it up quickly. But it doesn't exclude from target practice or long-range shooting at all. It has 19.5 mils that, I'm on a 20 MOA base right now, and there's still plenty of internal elevation. It does max out at 19.5 mils, where the limiter stops it. But it has this second rotation indicator on top. That's really cool. So when you're in your second rotation, or your little button there, tab, pops up. So that's really cool. Long-range shooters might appreciate that. The fact that the turrets are precision turrets, they're really high quality. I can tell that that's something I like, and I trust them very much so. If I dial 4/10, it's right on at 4/10 with some of my precision rifles. I like that a lot. And the groups that I'm seeing downrange are pretty respectable. 24 power is plenty enough to do a whole lot with, guys. You can do a lot with 24 power. And so I feel like precision, like PRS type shooting with that Christmas tree reticle, there's enough information in there. It's not super thin on the reticle, and it's not super thick where it blocks out things. The tree itself isn't so busy that you couldn't use it for one of those applications, and it has enough information that it makes sense even for PRS or places where you're going to want to know a lot of those wind holds and just information in the reticle in general. It's just a very simple reticle to look at. It's not hard. I kind of like that. I almost feel like going back to more of that in my shooting and the reticles that I enjoy, just because I know how to use a 1/2 mil breakup reticle pretty well. It's just easy to look at and read and estimate what's in between. So my guess is this is really designed and good for both of those fields, hunters and competition shooters or target practice people. And that's kind of like all of them. The only thing that these aren't good for are fast shooting really, really close. That's the only thing. But even then, it has a parallax that goes down to 20 yards. And so it can go really close, or maybe even a little bit closer than 20 yards. You can do your 22 stuff. This is definitely capable for NRL 22. It's an extremely nice piece of glass. I'm shooting it at sundown right now, just about sundown. And this is the best piece of glass I've ever had in a scope, actually, hands down. It is the best piece of glass. And there's a price behind it that reflects a more premium piece of glass. The 3 to 18 that I reviewed, that fits a lot of niches as well. But now that I have a 56 millimeter objective and I have this Japanese glass, it's premium. It's very, very good. And so if you are ready to move up into, you know, kind of a more serious optic with a serious piece of glass, and you're starting to notice deficiencies of a slightly lesser piece of glass, I think this would be for that person too. But I'm going to go ahead and throw a few more down here at 1,027 yards on an IDPA just because I'm enjoying it and it's not that windy out. So I don't know how many more days I'm going to get like this here in Minnesota. All right, guys, it's time for me to head out, clean up. I am super happy with this rifle and optic combination. You know, there's not a lot of optics out there that you get, and they just come with everything you need in the package. The fact that it comes with, let's start with the fact it comes with rings. That's a really big deal. It's a big expense for 34 millimeters to get a proper set of rings. And whether you need a little bit higher or a little bit lower, I just find that these particular rings work the best for lots of scenarios. So they hook you up with what you need right off the bat, and it's really not reflected in the price. It's still a really good price for a high quality Japanese piece of glass. 3 to 24 magnification, exposed turret, side parallax, illumination. Comes with a really cool honeycomb sunshade and those flip caps. There's just a lot about it. That second rotation or revolution indicator. There's a lot of stuff that is in this optic by itself, but then inside the package, you know, you get the rings and then you get the leveling kit so you can level your reticle and do it the right way, as well as some tools, you know, things to go ahead and take off that illumination cover, some Allens, the lens cloth, the fact that the quality control is pretty good. It's actually really good. When you have a list like that they're going through to make sure that this does not leave the factory until they know that it's doing exactly what they want it to do. They have expectations for their optics, and they don't want things going out that are going to make you unhappy or make them unhappy. That gives you some pride of ownership, because this is a high quality optic, and I don't think you'll ever receive a dud. If you did receive something that broke in transit, or is just something was missed, who knows, weird things happen. They have an excellent warranty and they're going to cover you. And so this company, I honestly feel like they're making it stupid easy for people to get into precision rifle optics, really high quality pieces of glass, and everything about BLACKHOUND Optics, of what I know of them right now as a company, tells me that they're going to be around to stay, that they're going to continue producing really innovative things and optics that are not a joke. They're not like entry level, you know, they'll do okay for a while. This is a serious premium optic, and I can tell by the way it functions, by the way the glass looks, and everything that I experienced with it today. Like, I have no issues running this on any one of my rifles. I like the magnification range for the kind of things that I do, and the glass quality is second to none. I don't have anything superior to this. It is the nicest piece of glass that I own currently, and I just think it's cool. Aesthetically, this is a cool setup, guys. I like this a lot. And so if I get a deer with this in the next 2 weeks, I have deer opener coming up here. I'm gonna have like a follow-up video. I'll send some pictures out on Instagram. If you haven't followed me yet on Instagram, go over and follow me on Instagram. I'll put out some media just so you can see what I did with it, but I'm excited. I feel like this reticle and the way the scope is designed, man, I'm gonna go straight from shooting 1,030 yards, shooting tiny little groups, little pieces of steel, and I'm gonna run out and kill a deer with it and be equally happy. So you should go check them out. Right now it's BLACKHOUND Optics. They have more models, more magnification ranges, and not just high power. They do have some low power variable scopes as well. And I think you're gonna be really pleased with them. Just a great company to work with, guys. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe.